what we saw over the last 3 months was this concerted effort by the Afghan government to play catch up to what the Taliban was doing, was essentially taking over the digital space on social media. It was flooded with the videos of their victories, of people, of Afghan soldiers surrendering, and all kinds of statements and things like that. There was also a considerable boost in terms of how they were perceived abroad. This basically coincided with their meetings across with various foreign dignitaries. They had meetings going on in Iran. They were also flew to Tajikistan. There was also a meeting in Moscow. So the Taliban had pretty much gained a lot of ground on the InfoWar sphere in terms of the war of narratives. When we saw what the Afghans were doing, we detected a distinct pattern, which we had also noticed what happens when we detect the disinformation campaigns from India. For example, by around June, when there was a considerable, when there were all these hashtags trending based on how Pakistan lost in Laghman, there's Pakistan started proxy war in Afghanistan, and other similar hashtags. Even though the vitriol, the criticism was being tweeted by known NDS accounts such as Amrullah Saleh, Hamdullah Mohib, and Rahmatullah Nabil, they were being pushed by known Indian disinformation accounts. By July, that was when the Taliban took over the Speen Boulder crossing, and there was also a shift in the narrative coming on from abroad, from Western sources. We saw that basically the Afghan government, the content mills went into overdrive. Foreign journalists were activated. You had the South Forum coming in. You had Hussein Haqqani on CNN and BBC almost every day. You had Chris Alexander mounting a lone wolf campaign on sanctioned Pakistan. So during this process, we noticed that while there was some hint of this joint activity between Indian and Afghan networks, by July, I think they had stopped covering their tracks even. So in that, their whole network got exposed. What we saw was that it didn't matter who was saying what, it was just coming out from, as if it was coming out from one single source. By the end of July, August, we had the same content being artificially pushed. We had a concerted artificial activity. We detected clusters of network activity centered around certain key figures. And then you had artificial, recently created accounts, bot accounts being pushed, and the platforms being very clearly manipulated to present a certain narrative. The kind of narratives, when we talk about narratives, what narratives we saw. Again, it's the same tired, obsolete narrative that we've been witnessing for years. Again, spearheaded by Indian disinformation campaigns. In terms of the narratives that we saw going around, especially as recently as the last couple of weeks and by the end of July as well, we picked up a concerted campaign to criticize the US withdrawal as well. Now, this was emanating both from sources within Kabul elite circles as well as from abroad. Like I mentioned before, you had Hussein Haqqani, who was on BBC and CNN every day talking about how the US made a mistake. Similar campaigns were launched against Zalmay Khalilzad, again criticizing the US, criticizing the UK. And again, while that campaign, and also to a certain extent Iran as well, but again, it was Pakistan that was being made as the lead scapegoat of this whole affair. This was also linked to the recent UN Security Council meeting organized by the Afghan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then that was also linked to the concerted campaign we saw on the 9th of August, the Sanctioned Pakistan campaign. It was being led by just a retired Canadian diplomat, Chris Alexander, and known anti-Pakistan Afghan journalist Habib Khan. While it was building on for quite a while in July, August, we saw it being pushed to going from around 800 tweets to maybe perhaps 500,000 plus tweets. Again, artificially amplified. We also found out, directly linked to what the Afghan Foreign Ministry presented to the UN Security Council meeting it had asked. They had requested this meeting, an emergency meeting, and then it also requested to exclude Pakistan. In that meeting, we saw that the same narrative that we had been witnessing since May, June, July, and again the narratives that I just mentioned before, were basically presented to the international community as known facts. when in fact they had been debunked, they have been called out as fake news, and they are and still is an ongoing disinformation campaign. Where does Pakistan stand in all of this, and how basically Pakistan's policy has been and how it has responded? I think it makes it's just simple common sense. I think Pakistan's policy has been that, look, there can be no development or progress in Pakistan without there being stability in Afghanistan. As long as there's instability in Afghanistan, that is against Pakistan's interests. Similarly, this whole campaign of blaming the US and how Pakistan's supposedly duplicitous role in that, there's a clear, Pakistan has been very clear in stating that Pakistan was, is, and will likely remain a partner for peace with the US. And that is exactly what it has been doing right now. Despite such vitriol, despite such disinformation campaign, I don't think we haven't picked up any kind of similar activity emanating from Pakistan or either the US or either the UK. The only ones that are even the Taliban that are actually dominating the digital space as well as dominating the ground from what reports we hear, no one has resorted to the kind of disinformation activity that we see coming from the Afghan and the Indian government together.